The year 2025 revealed something remarkable. An aircraft that many saw as a simple update of a 1990s design became the protagonist in global airline strategies. By April 2025, the A330neo family had accumulated 384 firm orders from 33 customers, an impressive milestone reinforced by new strategic orders. Malaysia Aviation Group doubled its future fleet by acquiring 20 new units, totaling 40 aircraft. Jet Air followed the same path, ordering 20 A330-900s to expand its international routes. Avalon, one of the world's largest lessors, added 15 A330neos to its portfolio, an unmistakable sign of confidence from those who bet on data, not assumptions. And in a symbolic move, Fly-to-Deal, Saudia's low-cost subsidiary, ordered 10 aircraft to begin long-haul operations. With such diverse customers and growing demand, the A330neo has gone from being a cautious bet to becoming the strategic choice of traditional and low-cost carriers, including giants like Delta Airlines. But why are many airlines, including Delta, betting so much on this aircraft?
If you're also passionate about the world of aviation, consider subscribing to the channel and supporting our team.
When aviation experts analyze the A330neo's success, one word stands out: versatility. Airbus claims that the A330-900 has 7% lower operating cost per seat than the Boeing 787-9, a difference that over thousands of flights in 20 years represents tens of millions of dollars in savings. Additionally, the A330neo consumes 25% less fuel per seat compared to previous versions. With a range of 7,200 nautical miles, 13,300 kilometers, and Rolls-Royce Trent 7000 engines, it can connect Sao Paulo to London, Bangkok to Sydney, or Dubai to New York without stops, offering global flexibility. Another advantage is delivery time. While the wide-body market suffers from bottlenecks, the A330neo benefits from a mature production line, ensuring faster deliveries. On the other side, the Boeing 787 Dreamliner remains a technological milestone but faces production delays and uncertainties. Despite the 787-9 costing $292.5 million and the A330-900 $296.4 million, real discounts in the sector make the effective cost similar, and in many cases more advantageous for the A330neo. Considering acquisition, maintenance, training, and global support, the A330neo often proves to be the most economical and predictable option. It's the balance between efficiency, range, and availability that has led airlines to increasingly bet on this model. Let's do a practical exercise to understand the real economic impact of the A330neo. Imagine two hypothetical airlines, Airline A, which chose the 900neo, and Airline B, which opted for the Boeing 787-9. Using conservative market estimates, remembering that actual values vary greatly due to negotiations and discounts, when comparing the acquisition cost between two of the main wide bodies, the difference is clear. The Airbus A330-900neo, with an estimated average price of $115 million after discounts, accommodates approximately 287 passengers, resulting in a cost per seat of approximately $400,700. The Boeing 787-9, valued at around $125 million and configured for 260 seats, presents a cost per seat of around $480,800. In other words, the A330neo offers savings of about 17% per seat, making it a more accessible and efficient option for airlines seeking to maximize capacity and return on investment. There's an aspect of the A330neo that rarely appears in press releases but is absolutely fundamental for airlines: the installed base and support ecosystem. The A330 family, including earlier versions called A330ceo, has been flying since 1994. That means 3 decades of operational experience, a global network of parts suppliers, technicians trained at practically every major airport in the world, and pilots familiar with the aircraft. For a company that already operates A330ceo, the transition to the A330neo is relatively smooth. Pilots need additional training, of course, but it's not as steep a learning curve as migrating to a completely new platform. Maintenance teams already know the basic structure of the aircraft. The purchasing department already has established relationships with suppliers. This dramatically reduces what the industry calls implementation risk, the risk that something will go wrong when you introduce a new aircraft type into your fleet. And risk, in the corporate world, has a cost that can be quantified and impacts purchasing decisions. It would be dishonest to paint a completely rosy picture of the A330neo. Like any aircraft, it has its limitations and challenges. Intellectual honesty requires us to acknowledge this. On ultra-long-range missions, say over 15 hours of flight, the A350 or Boeing 787 may have operational advantages that the A330neo cannot match. Physics and aerodynamics impose real limits. If a company needs to regularly fly from Perth, Australia to London, for example, it may discover that the A350 is technically and economically superior. Saudi Group's decision to order 10 A330-900s for its low-cost subsidiary Flyadeal deserves deeper analysis, as it represents a trend that could redefine long-haul aviation in the coming decades. Flyadeal, founded only in 2017, grew rapidly, operating a fleet of Airbus A320 narrow-body aircraft. In less than 8 years, it went from startup to an operator with global ambitions. The A330neo order marks the company's entry into the wide-body and long-haul market, a strategic move aligned with Saudi Arabia's goals of connecting 250 destinations and facilitating 330 million travelers by 2030. Stephen Greenway, Flyadeal's CEO, was emphatic on social media. The A330neo will drive our network expansion to Europe, the Indian subcontinent, and Southeast Asia with one of the lowest unit costs in the business. This is the most significant strategic evolution for Flyadeal since we started operations almost 8 years ago.
The business model is particularly smart. With a high-density configuration, potentially more than 450 seats in a single class, following the example of the Philippines' Cebu Pacific, Flyadeal can offer extremely competitive fares on long-haul routes, democratizing international travel for millions of passengers in the region. It's a classic case of how the right aircraft choice can enable an entirely new business model. There's a concept in aviation that strategists love to discuss: the sweet spot, that ideal point where demand, capacity, range, and economy align perfectly. The A330neo has found this point in a way few aircraft can. Let's unpack this. The Boeing 787 is a fantastic aircraft for ultra-long-range routes. If you need to fly 16 hours non-stop from Hawaii to Tokyo or London to India, the 787 shines. But how many airlines actually operate routes like this regularly? And how many of these routes generate enough traffic to consistently fill 250 to 290 seats? The reality of commercial aviation is that most wide-body flights cover distances between 4,000 and 10,000 kilometers. Transatlantic routes, Europe, Middle East, intra-Asia long-haul, North America, South America. These are missions where you don't need absolute maximum range, but desperately need economic efficiency. It's precisely on these missions that the A330neo demonstrates its strength. It offers adequate capacity, 287 to 440 passengers depending on configuration, sufficient range, 13,300 kilometers, and superior operating economy. If you don't work in aviation, you've probably never heard of the concept of commonality. But for CFOs and operations directors of airlines, it's one of the most important considerations when choosing aircraft. Commonality means the degree to which different aircraft in a fleet share systems, components, pilot training, and operational procedures. The greater the commonality, the lower the training, maintenance, and operation costs. Airbus built its commercial empire around this concept. A pilot certified on the A330 can transition relatively easily to the A330 and from there to the A350 because the cockpits and systems share design philosophy and similar procedures. A maintenance technician familiar with Airbus systems will find familiarity when working on different models. For a company like Malaysia Airlines, which operates a predominantly Airbus fleet, adding A330neo doesn't mean starting from scratch. The training infrastructure already exists. Procedure manuals can be adapted, not rewritten. Parts suppliers are established relationships. TAP Air Portugal, the launch customer that received its first A330neo in December 2018, has now accumulated more than 6 years of operational experience. The company's reports indicate reliability rates above 99%, fuel consumption in line with Airbus projections, and positive passenger feedback about the airspace cabin. Delta Airlines, the American giant that historically was a Boeing customer, surprised many by choosing the A330neo to renew part of its medium to long-haul fleet. Delta operates both A330neo and A350, giving it a privileged comparative perspective. Industry sources report that Delta considers the A330neo more economical for typical transatlantic routes from Atlanta and Detroit to Europe, reserving the A350 for longer or lower density routes. Virgin Atlantic, which operates a mixed fleet including A330neo, A350, and Boeing 787, provides another valuable data point. The company has publicly confirmed that the A330neo offers the lowest cost per seat mile in its fleet for high-density transatlantic routes, exactly the type of route that forms the backbone of many international operations. There's an advantage of the A330neo that doesn't receive enough attention in public debates, but is absolutely critical in boardrooms: delivery speed. In 2025, the global aerospace industry faces unprecedented production bottlenecks. Engine manufacturers like Pratt & Whitney and Rolls-Royce struggle with supply chain issues. Component suppliers like Spirit Aerospaces face quality and production challenges. The result? Widespread delays in new aircraft deliveries. Companies that ordered Boeing 737 MAX or 787 Dreamliner often discover that planned deliveries for 2026 may slip to 2027 or even 2028. For a company trying to capture a market growth window, this delay can mean losing valuable competitive opportunities. The A330neo, benefiting from a mature and established production line, offers relatively more predictable delivery schedules. It's not perfect. No program is immune to global supply chain challenges, but it's significantly more reliable than many alternatives. When Avalon placed its order in the second half of 2025, part of the logic was to secure delivery slots that allowed the leaser to meet commitments to its airline customers. In the leasing business, delivery reliability isn't just convenient, it's essential to the very viability of the business model. As we write this analysis in October 2025, what can we reasonably predict about the next 5 years of the A330neo? Airbus projects that global demand for wide-body aircraft will grow substantially by 2030, driven especially by developing markets. The Asia-Pacific region, which already concentrates some of the largest A330neo orders, is expected to represent more than 40% of global air traffic growth in the next decade. A decade later, in 2025, the market's verdict is clear. Airbus was right and the skeptics were wrong. The A330neo won't replace all wide-bodies, nor should it. But for the massive segment of medium to long-haul routes, for companies that need economic efficiency above all else, for developing markets where price sensitivity is critical, and for operators who value predictability and low risk, the A330neo has emerged as the rational and preferred choice. The 2025 numbers tell an unequivocal story. 384 firm orders from 33 customers, multiple new orders and expansions of existing orders, lessors betting their capital on future demand, and airlines from all continents and all business models choosing this aircraft as a pillar of their growth strategies. And that, after all, may be the most impressive achievement, not through loud and disruptive revolution, but through calculated evolution, operational excellence, and deep understanding of what customers really need, the A330neo has written its own success story in the skies of 2025, a story that is only beginning to unfold.